everyone, it's Sprinkles, and I'm here with First Ascents for our live mindful moment for March. It's MS month, so shout out to everybody who has MS, and thanks everybody for being here. This month, we're going to be talking about nervous system balance and then learning some tools to help us regulate our nervous systems. So I'm going to actually going to share something with you because we're going to get a little sciencey before we do the practice. I hope that that's okay. I always find that like when I share what's going on with our bodies, like maybe the anatomy behind it, that it helps us to understand what we're doing later. So I'm going to get this up. There we go. Our nervous system in our body. Um, we have two parts. There's the CNS, the central nervous system, which is what directly impacts people that have MS. So there's also the peripheral nervous system, which includes a branch called, and you can see this here, the central nervous system is like the pink. And then the peripheral nervous system is more like the nerves and that moves through the body. And it can be voluntary, where we're moving it ourselves, or there's the autonomic nervous system, which is what you maybe hear a lot about. So the divisions of that autonomic nervous system right here is sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I've talked about this before in other mindful moments, but we really sympathetic is our stress response. It's our active side of our body, of what's going on in our body. And the parasympathetic response is the rest and digest. And especially when navigating a serious health condition, it's so important to have enough of the parasympathetic rest and digest activation so that your body can heal, because that's when it does the most healing. So I wanted to be able to share with you about these two branches and how how it will show up for you. If you're in sympathetic response, you might have like the hyper arousal, the more mobilized, active state, and you might feel these ways in your body. So panic, fear, worry, irritation, rage, impulsivity, maybe a racing heart. It increases our stress hormones like cortisol, and maybe we feel more aggressive or agitated, irritable. And then there's a window of tolerance, which is in like the middle. I always kind of think of it being like a line, and you're either like above the line, or you're below the line, or you're like balanced. And so your window of tolerance is sort of that line of balance, and you'll feel engaged and curious, energetic, emotionally stable, mentally clear, resilient, centered, grounded. Like you're like, I got this, that sort of feeling. And then there's hypoarousal. So if hyper is mobilized, this is going to be immobilized. This is more when we get like really lethargic, heavy, numb, disconnected, foggy, shut down, low energy, fatigue, dissociation, where we just like want to tune out, get on our phone, not pay attention to things in life. Um, and we tend to float back and forth. So there's no wrong here. This is just a noticing of like how do we feel in this moment? Because when we know, then we can actually start to get to the way we want to feel. Um, Here's that idea that the autonomic nervous system, the line that I was talking about, where when you start thinking like this red is our stress point, where you're like, okay, you get to the one, there's a stressor, but I got this, I'll get out of it. You're kind of like in that window of tolerance. And then you go up to two, you still feel the threat. You might be like sweating more, you might be feeling like, now I'm getting a little anxious about this, but you can still get yourself back to baseline. Then when you start to get to three, so if we go too hard and we keep pushing in life without slowing down, then our nervous system can kind of collapse and it goes down below the line. And this is where you start to be like, okay, I don't even know how I'm going to get back up out of there. So we don't want to do that, because then it kind of continues to not be good. So today we're going to focus a little more on identifying how you feel in your body. And so we're going to do a little self-assessment before we move into the practice, just so you're aware of how you feel. And I just want you to think about like, how do you feel? Describe yourself when, like, how you feel good, physically, emotionally, like what's going on in your body. You don't have to like write anything down, just kind of close your eyes and be like, okay, when I feel good, it's probably similar to what we talked about before we started the recording, where we felt calm, peaceful, happy, alive, and a sense of freedom. We felt good in our bodies. And then I want you just to take yourself to like, how do you feel right now in this moment? Considering your day, you can allow yourself to think about whatever you were doing before this or what you have to do after that, and notice how that starts to make you feel. And again, there's it's totally fine if you realize that you're in a state of hyper or hypo arousal, because we're going to get ourselves back to baseline. It's just the noticing and the acceptance of like, I am here now, and now I can move into a sense of balance. Okay, you can start to blink back open your eyes, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Come back to a moment. And so as I mentioned, nervous system balance is just essential for healing and living a balanced life. The things that can tend to dysregulate us, which is when our nervous system is not in balance, are things like side effects from treatments, stress, just thinking, our stinking thinking. If you've heard that before, sometimes we can think ourselves into something that is, makes us feel nervous, feeling rushed, or having too much activity or not enough activity. And then even our devices and just getting like stuck in them, right? So we're going to learn a few practices today that are going to help us get regulated. Um, First, we're going to be standing up, and then we're going to sit back down or lay down to do a breathing exercise. So you don't need a yoga mat or anything. We're just going to take a moment to stand, and you're going to I do this often in the mindful moments. I like to start this way a lot, where you get really grounded. You start to feel your feet on the floor, have a little buoyancy in your knees, start kind of just like moving your body a little bit. Like I like to move it like sort of an octopus. You have all these limbs, and you can just start to feel like, how does your body want to move right now? Nobody's telling you how, just do it. And then you're going to start to get a little bit more like shaky. You're going to shake the arms, you're going to shake your legs. You're going to start to feel some tingling moving through your body. You can jump up and down. You can bust out your best dance moves. So, dancing in and of itself, especially to music, is a way to regulate the nervous system. It's kind of a similar concept to what we're doing now. And I'm going to slow down. You keep going. You just have a few more seconds here. But what we're doing with our bodies is we're shaking out the stress. Animals, if you think about when they have a stress response and they see a predator in the wild, that's exactly what they do. They shake it off, they start to move, and then they're fine. They come back into balance fairly quickly. So this is a really quick way to just like, if you're at your desk at work, or you know you're just feeling lethargic, get up, shake it out, move around. If you're feeling stressed, move the energy, okay? And we're going to come to stillness, and as I mentioned, we're going to tune into our breath. And you can stay standing if that's comfortable, or you can come to the ground. If you decide to lay down, it's probably going to be most comfortable to bend your knees and place your feet flat on the floor, just so that your spine is really nice and straight. Or you could lay flat with a bolster under your knees. If you're sitting, a chair is actually a great option, because you're going to want to be have your spine really straight. And sometimes sitting in a chair is easiest for that because you can press your feet into the floor and lift up through your spine. But just start to get comfortable. And then if you are open to closing down your eyes, you can start to do so. Start to tune into your body. Notice everything that is grounded. What is touching the floor or a chair beneath you? Begin to notice the sounds around you. Notice how your breath is moving in and out of your body. Maybe it feels a little choppy. We'll start to work with it in a moment. Maybe it feels a little stagnant. And then take one hand to your heart and the other hand down to your belly and feel that sense of connection to yourself. And then begin to just breathe in a little bit longer and deeper. Feel the breath rise as you inhale and then fall as you exhale. And for these next few breaths, just notice you can lengthen your breath a little bit more, lifting on the inhale and then just letting it go on the exhale. Noticing and feeling that activation on the inhale, which is activating more of that sympathetic part of your nervous system. And then the exhale brings in the parasympathetic part. So if we're equally inhaling the same amount of air as we exhale, then we're bringing our nervous system into balance. And it doesn't have to be exact, because sometimes counting can make it feel a little bit more challenging. What I want you to do is pay attention to if you can allow your breath to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, expanding on the inhale, and then a beginning, middle, and end on the exhale. And you may notice that as you're inhaling, you might feel the breath rising from your belly into your ribs and then your chest. You feel the breath pressing against your hands. And then as you exhale, the same thing, but it trickles down from your chest, ribs to belly. Now, we're going to try to make the exhale just a little bit longer than the inhale. If you've noticed that matching your breath has felt difficult for you, stay with the matching because the exhale is going to push a little bit more air out. And sometimes, especially if you're going through treatment or you are having some side effects from medications, the breath might it might impact some of the breathing patterns. And so we don't want to stress the system. So stay, or I invite you to imagine that beginning, middle, and end on the inhale. And then try to exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, drawing all the air out. And do that a few more times. Breathing in for beginning, middle, end, and letting it exhale for 5 seconds. And you may notice that as you're trying to get out those last 2 seconds, you almost have to draw your belly inward towards your spine to squeeze out enough air. And some of you may have already noticed that your breath might start to sound a little bit audible. And we're going to increase that now. So as you inhale, you want to try to feel the breath on the back of your throat, like you're inhaling through your nose, but you feel it moving upward, like there's some friction there. And then as you exhale, same thing, you go as though you're sighing your breath out. You could even try to pretend like your hand's a mirror and then open your mouth for a few exhales as though you're fogging the mirror. Notice how that feels. As you make those more audible exhales, you engage your diaphragm. And so that naturally engages more of the parasympathetic nervous system, as do the longer exhales. And so if you're still sighing, do that and then try to close your mouth. And follow that trend. Just a few more breaths. Nice, slow inhale with a 5-second exhale with audible breath. In yoga, it's known as Ujjayi breathing or victorious breath. And some people call it Darth Vader breath because you're making that noise. Just pay attention of how this feels for you. Come back into some normal breathing patterns now. And if that was hard, that's okay because we're just practicing it for the first time. And you may notice that it'll start to feel better the more you practice. I'm going to invite you to try one more quick breathing practice. Involves humming, which also helps to regulate the nervous system. It stimulates what's called the vagus nerve. Some people say vagus, some people say vagus nerve, and it's basically goes from your brain stem all the way down your spine into every organ in your body. And so they say that you want to have high vagal tone, which is meaning that you have a good resilience to stress and your nervous system is strong. And this the Darth Vader breath will help stimulate some of that, and so will this breath with the humming. So you can either just hum, or some people like to take their fingers and put them in their ears and hum that way too. So then it's all contained within your body and you hear it really loud as well. It's called Brahmari breath or bee breath. So it is a real thing and it helps. They've seen that it's been very effective with helping some kids with like ADHD, and it can help to really just regulate the nervous system. So, fingers in the ears if you want to try. And all you're going to do is inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, you're going to go, mm, mm. Take a big inhale, and then you do it again. And just let's say do it 3 times total and kind of feel what's going on inside your body each time. I start to feel an instant like effervescence almost in my head. Like, wow, something is awake in there. And then come back into a normal breathing pattern. When you're ready, you can blink open your eyes. And if you'd like to come back to the group, that would be awesome. We're going to end our recording here. So thank you everyone for joining us. And we just go ahead and get out living it.